The Bitcoin price movements are becoming bigger and bigger.
So what do we see? We see an industry that's growing from 2 trillion to 200 trillion.
In terms of price, I would say that threshold is probably somewhere at 500,000 per Bitcoin, maybe 400,000 Bitcoin. Somewhere there is where we start becoming the second largest asset class on the planet. That's when you start to shift and think, okay, I need exposure to this after the dollar starts to hyperinflate or devalue even more. Because you have to imagine at that threshold, like, what does the world look like when Bitcoin is $500,000? It's a very different world than today, right? It's not 80, 90, 100, 108. It's a very radically different world. And I think people miss that mindset that things change as Bitcoin goes up in big chunks, like 200. It's a very different world.
Today, we saw Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent explain to Congress why the US needs to be the premier destination for Bitcoin, crypto, and stablecoins, and how crucial this is for 2025. Michael Saylor also echoed the sentiment for Bitcoin at the Strategy World 2025 conference. Today, we have Samson Mow giving us his prediction for Bitcoin and how Trump just set the stage for a massive price increase in May. Mow discusses the collapse of the fiat money system around the world and says there's a plan to take over Bitcoin and crypto. With BlackRock being one of the biggest players to get into the space, this will be the least of our concerns, as entire countries are now coming for Bitcoin. The current price for Bitcoin sits just under $98,000, and with the recent pause on tariffs, investors are expecting another major surge. In this latest interview, Mow discusses why it's more important than ever that nation-states adopt Bitcoin and incorporate into the global economy before the inevitable collapse of the current monetary system as we know it. Let's get right into the latest interview with Samson Mow, as he gives us his prediction for Bitcoin in the coming months and why a massive surge in capital is about to pour into the space.
From 200, 500, you just have to, double plus a little bit, right? And then from 500 to a million, it's just a double. So these things become more likely the higher we go, because it's not like we're 10xing, we're just doubling from 500 at that Veblen threshold. The US is seemingly on a track to recovery from financial mismanagement, let's say. I don't see the same happening in Europe and other places. They're all sort of in denial, but at least the Trump admin has sort of recognized the problem. That's why they're trying to stop the death spiral. That's why they've implemented the Department of Government Efficiency. This is why they're trying to lower the 10-year rates. They realize that the debt is unsustainable. Inflation is a symptom, and something has to be done. And they're trying these other things, but Bitcoin is the only solution that will fix these things. So, yeah, to answer your question, yeah, it's a bit surprising the US was the next big one. I thought we'd have another big country, and that's kind of what we've been trying to accomplish at Jan 3. But what we've encountered is just everyone wants to wait for the US, and there's just a lot of fear of career risk. And with this shift in the US landscape, I think there is no more career risk. And that alleviation of the fear about doing something with Bitcoin, it just hasn't made its way around the world yet. Many Bitcoiners were expecting, like, we're going to get an Omega candle right now with the EO. But I think you need some massive change before that is going to happen, like retail coming in or normal people understanding Bitcoin, and or even just the action of buying either from the US or other countries. And that hasn't happened yet. The EO is just sort of news, and it's not well understood, and the impact is not well understood. So yes, the adoption of Bitcoin in the US is a direct threat. And it's not even about Bitcoin at this point. Like, the US is also looking to push stablecoins in a big way. And it looks like, Tether is going to be a part of that. So what does that mean for Europe? I think they should be far more concerned about stablecoins, because the barrier to understand a stablecoin is far lower than Bitcoin. So imagine you can go to any merchant with your self-custodial wallet, pay the merchant in a stablecoin, and that's fully outside of their control. Like, they can't really police that. Maybe they'll try. They'll go more draconian, more authoritarian, but it won't work, and the CBDC won't work either. So yeah, I'm just not sure what's happening in Europe now, but it doesn't look good for sure. Yeah, so the Omega candle is a 100K candle. The Bitcoin price movements are becoming bigger and bigger, and people are not always aware of these movements, and 100K is just, 10x. Bitcoin has done 17x in the past with a totally different macroeconomic landscape than today. Like zero Bitcoin national adoption, no strategic Bitcoin reserves, no talk about issuing Bitcoin bonds, and no talk about buying 1 million Bitcoin from the US. So it's completely within the realm of possibility that you get a 100K candle soon, maybe this year. So I think that the biggest thing is the Omega candle is saying be ready for this when it happens, because things are changing very, very rapidly.
Mao asserts this journey is just beginning, comparing the initial years to the current widespread interest and investment. He also acknowledges that BlackRock's recent entry into Bitcoin will transform the crypto landscape as we know it, as more institutional investors pour in. This dramatic increase in capital will drive Bitcoin's price significantly higher, like we saw in the halving. Mao highlights this being a significant development in the financial ecosystem. The ongoing adoption of Bitcoin by governments, institutions, and media signifies a broader recognition of its value, and crypto will be the best performing asset of them all.
There is like a threshold at which Bitcoin crosses this, and now it is like the new gold. And I think we're already seeing an inkling of that with the executive order to create the SBR. But in terms of price, I would say that threshold is probably somewhere at, I don't know, maybe 500,000 per Bitcoin, maybe 400,000 Bitcoin. Somewhere there is where we start becoming the second largest asset class on the planet. And people can kind of directly compare gold at the top with, what is it, 20 trillion, and Bitcoin with, half of that. And I think at that point you start to demonetize gold, because, you have this new thing that is surpassing that 1,000-year monetary technology in 16, 17, 18 years. So that's when you start to shift and think, okay, I need exposure to this. I'm willing to dump my gold and buy some of this. And maybe gold is the only valuable thing a lot of people have left after, the dollar starts to hyperinflate or devalue even more. Because you have to imagine at that threshold, like, what does the world look like when Bitcoin is $500,000? It's a very different world than today, right? It's not 80, 90, 100, 108. It's a very radically different world. And I think people miss that mindset that things change as Bitcoin goes up in big chunks. Like 200, it's a very different world. From 200, 500, you just have to, double plus a little bit, right? And then from 500 to 1 million, it's just a double. So these things become more likely the higher we go, because it's not like we're 10xing, we're just doubling from 500 at that Veblen threshold. You are seeing the coins on exchange decline, right? And I think it'll just accelerate now with more corporate buys. And if there are nation state buys, like with Cynthia Lummis's bill, then that's just going to accelerate. And I don't think everyone fully understands the 21 million limit, right? Because we've grown up, when I say we, I mean everybody, we've grown up in a very fiat world where there's always wiggle room, right? With a fiat economy, you can always fix your mistake. Okay, like in Canada, maybe we spent too much on vaccines. Now we, print some more money. And printing doesn't necessarily mean money on a printing press. There are so many ways to print money, right? Issuing debt or monetizing debt. But, you can fix your mistake, right? We messed up. Well, we'll fix it. But with Bitcoin, there is no recourse. Just like you can't roll back the Bitcoin chain if there's a theft, right? You just can't print more. And that reality has not yet hit the general populace that, okay, there is only 21. And that number is dropping rapidly. They haven't they don't know. Like there's just never been anything like this before. Like maybe gold, but still like 2% inflation a year. And it can increase if there is demand. So it's like a different beast still compared to Bitcoin. And it takes a lot of going down the rabbit hole to really understand that ultimate scarcity, that it's just like hitting a wall. No one will help you get more Bitcoin. If you break down the Bitcoin pie, like maybe like 3-4 million coins might be lost, right? Maybe five on the higher end of the boundary, but a lot of coins were lost. You can't look at Bitcoin at the lens that you're looking at it today and understand that, people 10, 15 years ago understood it the same way. A lot of people just didn't care, or yeah, they just lost it and threw away the hard drive. And there's a lot of that. And that brings us down to, maybe 15, 16 million coins available. And Michael Saylor alone has taken off all the coins to be mined this year, maybe twice, maybe more. And then you factor in any other significant buyer and you get a multiple of that. So it's likely that Bitcoin is already deflationary, right? Everything that's mined is not adding to the supply. So there is really little Bitcoin left.
Samson Mow foresees a looming economic catastrophe driven by collapsing fiat money systems, rampant inflation, and bank failures. He suggests transitioning to a Bitcoin standard as the world grapples with the impending crisis. He asserts that the promises made by the central banks have been hollow, leading to excessive money printing and a proliferation of poor investments. And with the aftermath of the recent inflation surge, this will not lead to a return to the status quo. The ongoing adoption of Bitcoin by governments, institutions, and media signifies a broader recognition of its value. However, this journey is just the beginning. Comparing the initial years to the current widespread interest and investment, with a giant spotlight on Bitcoin ETFs, Mow asserts this being a significant development in the financial ecosystem, selectively measured to create desired effects rather than reflecting the true state of the economy. In this context, Bitcoin emerges as an alternative, detached from the manipulations of the conventional economic sphere. That established corporations like Apple, Amazon, and Google will use their established relationships acquired over decades to swiftly acquire substantial amounts of Bitcoin through a spot ETF, bypassing the cumbersome processes involved in procuring the actual commodity. This disparity underscores the transformative power of cryptocurrencies in traditional financial institutions. Michael Saylor underscores the importance of embracing digital currencies as the economic landscape is changing rapidly, and urges investors to leverage Bitcoin's potential to secure a more prosperous financial future. What do you think about Samson Mow's prediction for Bitcoin? Comment down below. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is Library of Wealth. We'll see you in the next video.